One plane full of the most dangerous criminals in the country. One man desperate to get back to his hummingbird. And one plot we're still not sure makes any sense. After 20 years and a lot of listener requests, we're about to remake the mullet classic Con Air RIGHT. Hello, my fellow cinematic architects, and welcome to Remake This Movie Right. We are a member of the Hollywood Outsider Network. Listen to episodes of Remake This Movie Right on Apple Podcasts. Reviews are appreciated, your podcast app of choice, or just visit the website at remakeismovie.right.com. Remake This Movie Right is a show that takes an original film that has an actual remake in the works, generally, figure out what still clicks and what doesn't, throw a little bit of humor at it, and then we determine exactly how Hollywood should remake it. So by the end of each episode, we will have the remake ready to roll for Hollywood execs and present it to you in movie trailer form. We're here to tell Hollywood how to remake this movie right. I am your host, Darren Peterson, and joining me today, you know him from recent episodes like The Matrix, Logan's Run, and, of course, Stephen King's It. The host of the Blacklist Exposed, Troy Heinritz.
Anybody moves, and the bunny gets it.
You do not carry the weight of Nicolas Cage. And you remember him from our Escape from New York episode. He's the host of Shat on Movies and TV, and he does a bunch of TV stuff. He, lives in the fine podcast world. Roger Roper.
I have submitted my application to get as kicker on my Ford Explorer here in Arizona.
That is a great license plate. It's just begging to get your car keyed. So we have a variance of opinions on this one. Are you guys ready to head into lockup and actually discuss Con Air?
You know
yes. It. Yeah, absolutely. Let's do this.
Break me out of this cage already.
There's a little bit of a debate or a hesitation I felt on both of your parts, but... All right. Well, what is Con Air, you ask? Well, it follows ex-Army Ranger Cameron Poe, who has been newly paroled after spending 8 years for killing a guy in self-defense of a bar fight. It's kind of complicated and also a little odd because he's a lethal weapon, of course. He needs a ride home. The government decides to put him on this plane filled to the brim with the worst convicts in history, including Cyrus the Virus, Diamond Dog, Garland the Marietta Mangler, Green, and, of course, Johnny 23. While they're in flight, what happens? The convicts, they stage a coup and they take over the plane. They follow an elaborate plan. They set off fooling the police that are on their tails. They are trying to escape to freedom. But there was one fantastic mullet they did not count on. And that beautiful head of hair belongs to Nicolas Cage's Cameron Poe. Okay, I love this movie. I don't care. But you guys, I don't know where you stand. So where do you stand on Con Air as a whole? Before we get into the nuts and bolts of it as a whole, Roger.
I think this movie is equal parts The Fugitive, Forrest Gump, Leaving Las Vegas, and The Rock. It takes all the worst parts of those and mashes that into Con Air. This movie has so many plot holes in it. I found myself thinking, how did I ever think this movie was very good? Also, I think it's like Nic Cage's workout video for when he was sending it to studio executives and petitioning to be Superman. This movie is terrible.
All right, Troy, where you stand?
I was on a 2-hour flight from Chicago to Orlando today, and I watched Con Air for the first time in a long time.
On the plane?
And it was on the plane, totally meta. It was glorious. I laughed out loud so many times in this movie because the one-liners are just so campy cheesy. They work, and I just had a blast. I had a blast watching this movie again. The only thing that I would say was a kind of drawback was I forgot about the whole Vegas Strip landing scene. That might have been a little bit over the top, but otherwise, absolutely fantastic. Still holds up today.
A little bit over the top?
Okay. Well, right. He didn't quite get over the top. He went through Harrah's on the Sky Bridge. He didn't go over it. So
yeah, I like how they alluded to basically no one was hurt. I'm like, there's no way they landed on the Vegas Strip and no one was hurt because everyone is there. But I'm in the middle. See, I'm with Roger in the fact that it is a terrible movie filled with horrible plot holes. But I also think it's fantastic and I don't care. I love watching it. It's so ridiculous, every aspect of it. The accent, Nicolas Cage's accent is the most ridiculous thing in the movie. I didn't care. Just didn't care.
Wait a minute. His accent's the most ridiculous thing. What about that receding hairline? Is that a backwards mullet? Is that what's happening here?
I think so.
Like I don't really understand what's happening there or how anyone who looked at this thought that's a good look for Nic Cage. I think that'd be all right.
Wait, there's trivia that comes up with that, with the accent and the hair, so hold tight. So do you remember when you first saw it, though, Roger? You said you loved it or you liked it when it first came out. What do you remember about when you first saw the movie?
Yeah, so those who listen to Shat the Movies will know that during this time in my life, I was this is the Roger Roper date night. I would take my girlfriend to Chili's. We'd have the queso dip. We'd split that, and then I'd usually have a chicken salad. Then we'd go over to the AMC Pleasure Island 24 over in Orlando, Florida, and we'd watch a movie. Then we'd go back to my house and have we'd have very, very bad sexual intercourse
with queso dip?
in my playroom. And so, and not particularly necessarily in that order, but I definitely remember this was one of those times where Con Air was involved in that date night perspective, which, I can't understand why we ever broke up, because I kept taking her to movies like Con Air and Armageddon and anything Jerry Bruckheimer put out. I was possibly the worst boyfriend in 1997.
Or the best, really depends on how you look at it. It really does. Troy, do you remember seeing this the first time in the theater?
You'll be shocked to know that my experience was very much like Roger's in a lot of ways. We were working at a theme park over the summer, and a bunch of us from the rides with our respective girlfriends went to see Con Air and TGI Fridays After for some awesome queso and whatnot, and went back and just hung out and talked about the movie, and everybody absolutely loved it because it was just glorious on the big screen. All the explosions, pure June summer movie flick criteria. Why can't Transformers be this good? I'm just wondering.
I think it's about as smart. It's I remember seeing it with a bunch of friends. We all loved it, but it was kind of like, it was in that time. Remember when Nic Cage, he was that action guy for about a 5-year stretch where everything he did was just golden. It was that time, and this was one of those movies, and we just loved it. And when he comes out and he's all just ripped, and you're like, wow, that's the guy that ate the cockroach in Vampire's Kiss. That's the guy. And so we were just pretty jacked that Nicolas Cage was really turning himself into a full-fledged action hero, and it was pretty impressive.
I think what this movie lacks is the traditional Nic Cage craziness. I think this is for fans who have seen Tropic Thunder. I just saw Tropic Thunder again. This was his. What was it? Simple Steve. What was the movie that they say you never go full? What was the movie? That's essentially what
Simple
Nic Cage
Jack.
is doing.
Simple Jack.
Simple Jack.
Yeah.
This is Nicolas Cage's real life Simple Jack. He is toning it completely down, which if I'm going to go see a Nic Cage movie, I want craziness. I want the Face Off Nicolas Cage. I want the Vampire's Kiss eating cockroaches. This was, I think he was doing a worse version of his Raising Arizona character, which I totally hate. I felt like he was doing a Tom Hanks impersonation during when Tom Hanks was Forrest Gump.
That's an interesting way to look at it. Maybe he was going for an Oscar in this. And nobody told him, this isn't an Oscar movie.
Well, when you tell him Ving Rhames, John Malkovich, and Steve Buscemi is going to be involved, how is that not Oscar bait?
That's true. He was probably thinking it. He's like, look, this is my hummingbird. This is my moment right here.
Yeah.
I'm going to do it.
I also think this movie has already been remade as The Expendables, but that's just a topic for another conversation.
All right. Well,
you forgot the gloriousness that was Dave Chappelle.
Oh, well, yeah, Dave Chappelle's
Dave
great.
Chappelle's the best part of this movie.
Hang on, because we're going to get into some trivia and what we loved and don't love about Con Air. Actually, I have a lot more that I don't know. Actually, I don't know. It might be more that I don't love, but I still love this movie. Please subscribe and review us on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, whatever podcast app you use. If you have your own pitch or thoughts on this week's show, email us at remakethismovieright@gmail.com. That's remakethismovieright@gmail.com. Here's a clip from Con Air.
Well, we told you today's flight would be special. That's William Bedford, a.k.a. Billy Bedlam.
Mass murderer?
The same. He caught his wife in bed with another man, left her alone, drove 4 towns over to his wife's family's house, killed her parents, her brothers, her sisters, even her dog.
Scan him. And who is that good-looking brother on screen?
Nathan Jones, a.k.a. Diamond Dog, former general of the Black Guerrillas. He blew up a meeting of the National Rifle Association saying, and I quote, they represented the basest negativity of the white race. He wrote a book in prison called Reflections in a Diamond Eye. New York Times called it a wake-up call for the black community. They're talking to Denzel for the movie. This one's done it all. Kidnapping, robbery, murder, extortion. His name is Cyrus Grissom, a.k.a. Cyrus the Virus. 39 years old, 25 of them spent in our institutions. But he's bettered himself inside, earned 2 degrees, including his Juris Doctor. He also killed 11 fellow inmates, incited 3 riots, and escaped twice. Likes to brag that he killed more men than cancer.
Okay, open wide. Lift your tongue.
Cyrus is a poster child for the criminally insane. He's a true product of the system.
What's that supposed to mean? What is he, one of these sociology majors who thinks we're responsible for breeding these animals?
No, but I could point a few fingers if it would make you feel comfortable.
All right. Now you guys ready for some trivia on Con Air?
Hit me.
Okay. The plane is a Fairchild C-123 provider. Just for any plane buffs out there, because I didn't know that. Now you do. Now, speaking to Roger's point, John Cusack dislikes this movie so much that he refuses to be interviewed about it. John Malkovich was unhappy during production because the script was being rewritten virtually every day, and he had no idea how his character was going to turn out. And Dave Chappelle improvised most of his lines. There you go.
Wait a minute. Are you telling me with a script this tight, it was being rewritten on set?
Yeah, apparently.
Yeah. Yeah. You Can I just point out a massive plot hole, or is there going to be a section for that?
No.
Are we going to get to that?
We'll get to that. We'll get to that. You hold tight.
Right.
You hold tight. But I do want to point out, I actually watched an interview where somebody asked John Cusack about Con Air while he was being interviewed on another movie, and he walked away. It was fantastic.
I don't understand why John Cusack would be upset about this. I felt like his portrayal was one of the more believable and enjoyable characters. I like the whole, like, he's a walking thesaurus, and he's the anti-ass kicker guy. I felt like I enjoyed his performance.
I don't know, but he's living a life of shame. And you know what? No offense, John, but I've seen your work in recent years. Maybe you should start appreciating Con Air just a little bit more.
Maybe you should drum up support, start a Kickstarter for Con Air 2, hosted by John Cusack. I'd throw $25 towards that.
Yeah, like his career went downhill, so now, bam, he's the guy behind bars, and now he's trying to orchestrate his own escape or something. I'd watch that.
Is this remake this movie right, or is this remake this sequel right? Because I'm on board for that one.
Oh, well, you know what? This movie was Oscar gold because it was nominated for an Oscar. The song How Do I Live was nominated for both an Oscar as Best Original Song and a Razzie for Worst Original Song. It did not win either award, but the film did win the Golden Raspberry Award for Worst Reckless Disregard for Human Life and Public Property at the 18th Golden Raspberry Awards. That's fantastic.
Now, was that Trisha Yearwood or was that Leanne Rimes? Because I know nothing about country music.
It was originally Leanne Rimes. She sang the original version, and then they had it redone with Trisha Yearwood because they wanted an adult to do it.
Because if you have reckless abandon for human life, you definitely need an adult.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
this coming from the movie that basically makes a serial killer, a character that has gone around wearing the hat, victims on his head as a hat, a sympathetic character in the end. Yeah,
that we root for, and we hope he escapes.
Yeah. So therefore, you must not have a 14-year-old do the theme song to your movie. That's where Hollywood draws the line. Apparently,
the rules are fantastic. 2 more. This is the first film that Jerry Bruckheimer produced without the late Don Simpson. The new Jerry Bruckheimer Films logo was featured for the very first time in front of this film, so that's pretty interesting.
Yeah, I think Don Silver is happy about that.
Don Simpson?
I mean, Don Simpson. Don Silver as well, also Don Simpson.
Don Simpson's dead, so I don't think he has an opinion one way or the other. In reference to the credit in memory of Phil Schwartz was an effects specialist who was killed during the making of this movie when a rigged plane fell and crushed him. It's kind of a sad tidbit, but I thought it was... People want to know who Phil Schwartz was. That's who he was.
So they just put that in the movie when they dropped the Dave Chappelle character out the... God. Is that what that is? They're like, well, we gotta remember him somehow.
No. They wrote Larkin on his shirt at the funeral. Oh, that's awful. Okay.
That's terrible.
All right. So what makes this movie so notable? Favorite moments, like just what did you love about this movie? Roger, give me something you loved about this movie.
I loved Bubba. I thought Bubba died in Forrest Gump. No, he's actually in this movie. He went to jail Is this, or it's possibly Bubba's son? I don't know. What did I love about this movie? I'm happy Steve Buscemi's character did not rape and murder that little girl. That's what I'm happy about. That was my favorite part of the movie.
Okay. That's an interesting thing, but I'm glad that happened as well. What about you, Troy? Can you top that?
Well, I just love the one-liners. I after watching this, I was quoting one-liners all afternoon while I was going about my business. So like, if you just would have put the body back in the box, I'm going to show you what God is. They're just so bad, but yet they're so awesome at the same time. I love it. Anytime you can quote a movie, you know the movie's gold.
The day of the dog begins. What does that mean? I don't know what that means. But
the guy's name was Dog.
No, I got it. I'm just like, I don't know what that's gonna mean. I loved a bunch of stuff, man. Nic Cage's body impressed me. I know that sounds, whatever, but he went from one of the nerdiest guys in movies, and even in The Rock, where he's supposed to be an action hero, he's very much a Nic Cage action hero. And then he comes into Con Air, and the dude is just jacked. Like, he's done nothing but pump iron since The Rock. And I thought that was pretty interesting. My favorite part about the movie, though, is there's so many likable villains. I mean, I think the key to a good action flick is a likable villain. I enjoyed every one of these guys. Cyrus, Diamond Dog, of course, Steve Buscemi. You can't not like Steve Buscemi. I mean, he's just one of those guys. Just everybody about it, I kind of enjoyed. And Johnny 23. Guy's a horrible person. And I'm like, yeah, I kind of like, he's Danny Trejo. Who doesn't like Danny Trejo? So I kind of like hanging out with him.
How ripped was Danny Trejo in this movie? Like, I've seen Danny Trejo recently. He was at Phoenix Comic Con.
Mm-hmm.
And then I also saw him, I think, a year and a half ago at the Dallas Cowboys Sunday night football game. I just happened to be in Dallas for work, and he was out there slinging bottles of Bud Light. And he actually handed me a bottle of Bud Light. Dude is aged. Obviously, he's still Danny Trejo, so he's awesome. But in this movie, that's how I think we all remember Danny Trejo. Yeah. Like the what was the movie with El Matador? What is that?
El Mariachi.
El Mariachi. Yeah, that's it. But the sequel to that, what was that?
Desperado.
Thank you so much. Like, he's still in that Desperado shape, right? And I felt like he was used very effectively here. Like, he was, of all the characters, I truly believe that he was a convict. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
And so I definitely love the character, but he was scary. And I feel like, I know I'm jumping ahead here, but I feel like if they made this movie a little bit more dark, especially if they made it today,
mm-hmm.
that's the way they would have to do it. They would have to make those type of characters. You would have to, like, hate, but also kind of root. I don't know. You want to hate these characters, but also root for them. Like, I don't really get that whole dichotomy that the movie's trying to go for.
Yeah. And in fact, I actually will have a point to that too. So we're on the same page, I think, to a degree. I just, I think that it works for this movie. I don't think they could ever do it again because they really got lucky. Well, I mean, not to you, but to Troy and I. For Troy and I, they got pretty lucky because I don't know how they made a movie this entertaining when they have so many things that shouldn't work, in my opinion. And John Cusack, I thought was really entertaining as well. I liked his back and forth with Colmini. I thought they had a nice diatribe going, even if Colmini was just angry jackass guy, the DEA guy, the entire movie. I mean, he didn't really get interesting until the very end, but I like their back and forth. I think it worked. And I like How Do I Live? I like that song. I do like that song.
How dare you? How dare you?
I like it. And I like it when him and, low budget Julia Roberts are hugging at the end. And, I really like that too. Monica Potter. Sorry if you listen.
I was going to say, don't you pick on my Monica Potter because of this movie specifically and Monica Potter being in it. It's why I watched Parenthood.
Wow.
So without Con Air, I might not have watched Parenthood.
Well, I hope she's listening and she knows that she appreciates you.
Yeah.
Jeez. Because all I kept thinking was, kind of like low budget Julia Roberts. She kind of looks the same, has the same smile-ish. Now, you should watch Parenthood then, and you take that back because I've seen her in. She's your hummingbird. I saw. What was it? Not Kiss. Was it not Kiss the Girls? It was one after that. Along Came a Spider.
Along Came a Spider. Yeah.
Yeah, she was really good in that. All right. So what doesn't work? Come on, Roger. Tell us what you don't like. Tell us the glaring plot hole.
I mean, just about everything. Okay, number one. And again, I had to go back to Wikipedia to make sure that I caught this correctly. So correct me if I'm wrong, but Nicolas Cage's character is jailed in Alabama, correct?
I believe so, yes.
He goes to a federal penitentiary in Alabama, yes?
I believe so, yes.
We don't know exactly where, because he might have been transported amongst the 7 years that he was being shipped around, because they do transport prisoners from time to time. The crime was committed in Alabama, hence the Sweet Home Alabama reference at the end of the movie, I do believe.
Mm-hmm.
But he could have been transferred to numerous places, because I think I know where you're going with this. Like, why does it take place in Las Vegas if they're jailed in Alabama, technically?
Not only that, but the bus that he rides into has Alabama federal corrections on it.
Okay.
So why would they take a plane from Mobile, Alabama to another Supermax prison in Alabama by way of Carson City, Nevada? That's government waste at its finest.
Well, weren't they heading to California? Now we sound all dumb.
No, that's the movie, because they're talking about this new Supermax prison in Alabama. So are they being transferred from the Supermax penitentiary in Alabama to somewhere else? Like, I don't know. But according to Wikipedia, and this is why I had to check it, they're being released after being flown to Alabama on the Jailbird.
Okay.
So it makes, this is the biggest plot hole that happens like in the first 20 minutes. Actually, no, let me take that back. The biggest plot hole is redneck bar townies in a fishing town in Mobile, Alabama, don't respect their veterans. This is, I guess it's pre 9/11, right? Like, I would never expect that, like, the good old Southern conservative state of Alabama would hate on their veterans like this.
Yeah,
it was a drunk man who wanted a piece of ass.
Yeah, I mean, that whole thing was ridiculous. I mean, pretty ridiculous.
Yeah,
I would agree.
The whole going to jail because his fists are considered, assault weapons,
Lethal
and
weapon.
he's a weapon of mass destruction. Come on, it's any judge in Mobile, Alabama's, gonna let that go. Plus, like, there was a witness that was his wife who hired this lawyer.
I think they alluded to, they offered him a deal, and it sounds like he didn't take the deal, and they found him guilty, right? That's the way
False. He took the deal,
and they just gave him the 7 years.
Yes.
Because he said he wasn't going to plead, but then he says, "I'm not going to plead. I'm not guilty." And then he says, "You pled guilty." It's like, well, you just said you weren't going to plead. I don't understand that. Yeah, the whole reason for him going to jail in the first place was weird.
Right.
Well, that in Alabama, I mean, honestly, they probably give him hero status and a statue out front for taking out that dude.
Exactly.
I get what everybody is saying. It's a big plot hole too.
Yeah. And I've watched My Cousin Vinny. The judges in Alabama are fantastic.
Based on your historical reference and your educational research from My Cousin Vinny.
Obviously, My Cousin Vinny, based on a true story.
Well, speaking of true story, Nicolas Cage's accent, which is fantastic, by the way. He traveled to Alabama to perfect that accent. Did you guys know that? He perfected it.
Now, when Nicolas Cage says perfected it, does he mean he watched My Cousin Vinny? Is that what he means?
I think it could be part of it. Was that before this? Because it's very possible.
It definitely was. I felt like Nicolas Cage is a method actor, but could you imagine Nicolas Cage going to, various restaurant eateries in like the deep South in Alabama? Just how you want to talk about like a fish out of water story, right? What must Alabamians think of when they see a guy wearing the hair and all jacked up like that, Nicolas Cage? What do you think is going through their minds when he walks into the Cracker Barrel of Birmingham, Alabama?
That's is that Nicolas Cage or is that Mr. Hummingbird? I don't know who that is. I've actually met him before at South by Southwest. He is a very quiet guy.
Yeah.
And you could tell he is not somebody who likes social interaction. Like, he doesn't do this for all the adoration. He's just, he likes acting, and I'm sure he likes the money and that sort of thing. But I don't think he's going to be frequenting any Cracker Barrels, man. I think he seems like a hotel kind of guy. I'm just going to stay at the hotel, finish my movie, go back to my mansion, my 4 mansions that the government owns now.
And that's why his accent didn't work, because he never left the hotel.
That's probably true. Oh, and that hair. Troy, what didn't work for you?
I think for me, the biggest challenge I've always had was the I love the Steve Buscemi character, and he's completely weird and creepy, and the whole singing he's got the whole world. It's like all of it just is odd. Like you have this whole, maybe he's supposed to be the hope of the movie. I guess there's hope in the movie because when he goes and sits down in front of the girl, there's like nothing from stopping him from being this bad guy, and then he decides not to be the bad guy. And the fact that they play it off like she's missing from the thing, and he's gone, and the dolls are gone, and it just was weird. That whole, even today, I couldn't remember if the girl was safe or not. So I was actually a little stressed out watching that scene because I could not remember if the girl was safe.
And why was she out there in the middle of nowhere all alone?
Yeah, in the middle of this trailer park, which was so close to this beaten up airfield where if kids are playing, they can get like tetanus and all kinds of other weird diseases from the junkyard. And it just, that whole scene was just odd. And if it was just to play off that's an interesting thing to have on a convict plane with the Ken doll. I mean, yeah, that was odd. I think you had the same concept with Johnny 23 and could have just played that out like it did. And you didn't have to bring in the whole Steve Buscemi being weird stuff. You should have just been part of the action, you know?
Yeah, I felt like of all the plot devices used in the movie, that was the most shoehorned in. That seemed to me like the most one that was made up on the fly. Because why? Because I felt like it took away from different things that are going on in the movie, right? You have the whole John Cusack fighting the DEA agent plot line. That's the other one outside of the main plot device of Nicolas Cage being the hero, right? And trying to fight up against this convicts, trying to rescue the kind of like Passenger 57 situation. Mm-hmm. But then they shoehorn this other C story that the movie did not need whatsoever. And I felt like they did it just because Steve Buscemi's agent said, worked out a really good deal for him.
I think it was that, what do you call it? The purposely placed cutaway scenes. Like there's so much action going on in the boneyard that the audience needs to just have like a step back from that. And so you film these like cutaway scenes. And this was their shoehorned in cutaway scene, for lack of a better concept. Because it couldn't cut away to, oh my gosh, drawing a blank. Holy crap. John Cusack's character. And because he's already part of the boneyard action. So it's like more action. So they needed something that was less action to get the audience to get a breather before they come back into the action again.
But don't you think that they could have done the same thing effectively, like you said, with the Danny Trejo, with the Johnny 23 character, kind of getting loose, like he's kind of not part of that? Or they could have explained more of why the one character, and I forget his name here, but the one who double crosses Cyrus with the whole Colombian drug gang. Mm-hmm. Like that felt, again, you could have explored that topic more, because John Cusack's character, along with Nic Cage, kills all those, all like the drug lord's cronies, but leaves the pilot alive. Like that made no sense to me. And there's no, like, why? What's going on with those characters? Like, what's the connection there? I want to know more of that, because wasn't that their whole escape plan? They were going to land there in the abandoned airfield. I assume those cronies killed Nick, the operator, the air traffic control. I don't know if Nick was his name. Yeah. But then I felt like that was kind of a throwaway. Like, I want to know more about that. About the Sandino crime family. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I agree. There's a lot of loose plot holes here. Lots. Like the fact that the amount of time they have from the time Johnny 23 spots the cops at Lerner Airfield to the time they actually get there, 10 to 15 minutes. Because I got I got an altimeter on my phone, and I'm just like, I got it perfectly timed. Yeah, 10 to 15 minutes. And then it takes longer than that movie time before the cops actually show up.
Yeah, that was the longest 15 minutes in movie cinematic history.
It was pretty good. And they're like, well, let's go set this whole thing up. We got a plane out of the dirt. We set up a trap. We got everybody organized, all in 10 to 15 minutes, 12 to 15 minutes. Very precise, very specific.
Of course.
We got to be very particular, because they're convicts. They understand this stuff.
Yeah, these are the most highly militarily strategic trained convicts of all time.
They are. They are. Now, my biggest problem with the movie is something I really enjoyed in the movie. Okay, I thought all the convicts are likable. I talked about that. I really enjoyed that. But it's also my biggest problem with the movie because the convicts just aren't deadly enough. Every one of them that's supposed to be this evil guy doesn't really do anything too evil. They just kind of talk about it. Johnny 23 is about the only one that gets really close. So they work a little too hard to make him likable. And while yes, the best action movies have likable bad guys. I mean, when you have a movie called Con Air, I need some convicts that feel like they are as bad as they paint them out to be. Because you've got intricate backstories for every single one of them. Diamond Dog is painted as this racial militant who's going to bring down the white man, and it barely even matters. So why go through all that trouble of giving him a backstory and he never even gets to use it? I feel like that's a wasted Chekhov gun, you know?
Not only that, but I feel like Diamond Dog's character was he was militant, but almost like in a good way. Like the crime that he went to jail for was blowing up the NRA, which if you follow politics today, the NRA is not like the best organization in the world. So I felt like I was like, ooh, I like this character.
You somehow made Con Air political. Good job.
Thank you.
That was a stretch.
I'll take it.
That was a stretch. Okay. My other thing. Okay. And this is just a movie guy thing. The poster, the Con Air poster. Have you guys seen the Con Air poster?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, you've got like 3 of them. You have John Malkovich, Nicolas Cage, and John Cusack's face in that order on the poster. And they have a name over each one of their heads, but the names are all out of order. Over Malkovich's head is Cage's name. Over Cage's name is Cusack's name. And over Cusack's name is Malkovich's name. Why? That's the worst poster design I've ever seen. Literally every character is miscredited.
Because they're doing it by importance factor of the movie.
I
right?
get
the
that.
Hero's always left.
But literally, they have the heads and the names on the head. Go look at the poster, guys. I'm telling you, it's hysterical.
It's weird. It is weird.
The names are over every wrong actor. It's weird.
Isn't this also the Rock's poster as well?
Yeah, pretty much.
Again, this movie is... this movie is terrible.
Oh, I love it. I don't care as much as I'm knocking it. I love it. I love the bunny. Put the bunny in the box. I love that. I think that's great. I love that Nicolas Cage's daughter is terrified of him at the end. Like she looks absolutely horrified that this is my dad. Look at what he gave me. I don't want to go home with you. You scare me. I think that's hysterical. I mean, this movie is just fun.
So here's how you know the Rock was a better movie, because The Rock has Nic Cage's head, Sean Connery's head, Ed Harris's head, but only mixes up Sean Connery and Nic Cage's names. They actually got Ed Harris correct on the movie poster.
Did they get names wrong on that one too?
Yes, they did.
What the hell is wrong with people?
Listen, it was the 90s. That's what you did.
It's the most prominent actor on the left from a left to right perspective, because that's how we read in America. But then you have to have the most prominent character in the middle from a graphics perspective. So you just have competing artistic styles, I guess.
There are people today, somewhere right now, there is somebody who saw this in the theater and they saw that poster and they still think John Malkovich is actually Nicolas Cage. So every time he comes on, like, oh, a new Nic Cage movie. Why do they keep... I don't see his name in the titles ever, but that's the new Nic Cage movie.
It's also the same guy as in The Rock. In The Rock, you know how Nicolas Cage goes down to his knees and he's holding up the flares, right, to kind of stop the bombardment of missiles that are going to blow up the Rock. It's the same thing that's happening on this poster, only with the guns, the silhouette of the guy with the guns in the same pose. Again, Jerry Bruckheimer movies, I thought this is how bad Jerry Bruckheimer movies are. They're just cookie cutters of each other. They're the modern day suburban house of movies, right? Where they're just kind of cookie cutter versions of each other with slight variations. Mm-hmm. I thought I could have sworn in my head, and this is maybe a Berenstein Bears situation here, I thought Michael Bay directed this movie.
I think it's possible that he might have. We don't know based on everything about it. It feels Michael Bay-ish.
Doesn't it feel like a Michael Bay film? I feel like I'm living in an alternate universe where I swear to God this was a Michael Bay film. No, it's directed by Simon West. I don't know what vortex I've slipped through, maybe at a Bed Bath & Beyond, but somehow I ended up in this timeline that's vastly different from what I remember in 1997.
Well, see, Michael Bay is actually Simon West's pen name.
There you go. He's kind of like what is Stephen King's pen name? And I think he's like
Richard Bachman.
Yeah, he's Richard Bachman.
Maybe. You know how you know the difference though? If it's a Michael Bay movie, there will be an American flag waving at some point. Period. It's required.
An American flag waving and also an unnecessary obstacle for a car to bust through.
That's true.
Which I actually think this had, only it was a plane.
This did, because it's so random that it hooked onto the only nice car in the entire place and destroyed it, which
that's right.
I still love.
It just happened to clip onto it, which just happened to pull it out.
But really, that bunny, and that hair, and that accent, all this stuff works, man. It just works. You know what? All this stuff, and I still love it, and I don't care. So, should this movie even be remade, or should it be placed in don't touch status? Should it never be touched again because it's so perfect? Troy.
Oh, man. I mean, you shouldn't remake it just because it is, as much fun as we have with the movie, it is a terrible movie. Therefore, it probably shouldn't be remade just because it should just stand alone as its own thing. At the same time, I had so much fun with it. And there's a great line at the end of the movie that I think could really spawn a completely new franchise of con movies.
Do you want to say that line or you want to tell us?
Well, it could be like con sub, con train, con bus, whatever you want to do.
Con snowmobile. All right, Roger, would you remake it?
I think this movie has, again, already been remade, and it was called The Expendables. Because doesn't The Expendables also have that same logo as Con Air? I'm doing a quick Google search right now. It's pretty close, right?
I'm pretty
sure. And they also fly
a
HC-23, 123.
Yeah, that's pretty close. Yeah, it's pretty close.
So, but if I were going to remake this movie, and I think it should be, I would make the cons more dangerous. I would lose the whole. I don't know. I would make this an R-rated movie because I think this was PG or PG-13.
Oh, no. This is rated R. This was
rated R? This was an R-rated movie?
It was rated R. Yes, sir. This
movie would be rated G by today's standards.
That's probably true.
At what point did you see any cursing? Did you hear any cursing? Did you see any like?
Oh yeah, Cole Mimi was he was dropping F-bombs repeatedly. Yep.
All right, so that's the only. It must have been like light cursing.
No, I just think we're so trained now because of how PG-13 has become so violent that we're like, how could this not be a PG-13 movie? But really, it's rated R, and probably a hard R in '97.
Because I would say Iron Man was more risque than this was.
Yeah,
really.
Yeah, I didn't see any blood. I mean, I guess outside of Diamond Dog throat. Like in the beginning, he cuts the throat of one of the guards on the plane.
Well, you got a dangling arm at the end when Danny Trejo loses his arm.
That's fantastic.
Oh yeah, that was a good one too.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, I get again. I'm so desensitized. Hello, America. But yeah, no, I feel like if you make this a little bit more dark, if you do away with some of like the over the topness of this, I could see this being kind of a good thriller, like almost like a I would have liked to had more exploration into why the DEA agent is going into the plane, why he's going undercover, and I want to flesh out more with the cartel and why Cyrus has made a deal with them. You know, I feel like those kind of things could be explored a little bit more. So, I mean, do I think it'll ever be done? No. I mean, is it Hollywood? So nothing's off the table. But this movie is so iconic because it's so bad that it was good for all the bad reasons. And if you try to remake something like this, I don't know if they can catch that same magic.
Well, unless they do it different. But we're going to do it because we can do it. But before we do that, we've got one more clip from the original Con Air.
So what was that all about?
Oh, nothing. Except they somehow managed to get every creep and freak in the universe onto this one plane. And then somehow managed to let them take it over. And then somehow managed to stick us right smack in the middle. Hi, Garland.
Okay, now we're on to the remake. Now, it is important to know that there's not an actual remake in the works. This was just requested by listeners. So we're doing this one because you guys wanted to talk about Con Air. Since this is a movie that is getting a remake, and as fans, we know the best way to do it, how should Hollywood remake it? So what we're going to do is all selections are settled by a best of 3 vote. Each host gets 1 cut per episode to use whenever they want. If they're extremely passionate about an idea, they yell cut, and we have to use their idea going for whatever it is we're talking about. We're each going to throw out our own story idea or our take on where we want to see the movie go. Troy, why don't you tell us first, how do you want to see a remake of Con Air? And then once we all go, we'll decide which direction we want to head.
Well, I know it's called Con Air, but I'm going to continue the franchise because there's a great line at the end of the movie where she says the agent or the, what's her name? Sheriff guard, whatever her name was. And she says, Poe, next time, take the bus. It's like the perfect setup for the next movie. So it's like 10 years later and Poe is actually working in the prison system as a guard.
So you want a sequel. You don't want a remake. You want a sequel.
Kind of like a sequel, yeah. But it's the same exact movie, just on a bus. That's it. It's the same movie. Like they do it from one prison to another prison, do a prison transfer to get some really creepy prisoners to take them to this Supermax facility on this brand new state-of-the-art Greyhound, Silverliner, whatever it needs to be. You get a little bit of speed thrown in there, a little bit of plane, trains, and automobiles for the comedy. I think that would be fantastic. It's on a bus instead of on a plane. You can call it Con Greyhound or whatever you want to call it. I don't know.
I feel like that was the original script, but then they were like, what if we put them on a plane instead? Because they were all on buses to begin with in Alabama, going to an Alabama prison. They were like, no, wait a minute, we can't just have that. What if we did it on a train? And I mean, not a train, a plane.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I want to do. I want to do the exact same thing that Troy just said, only on a train. Call it Con Train.
Okay. Well, I've got a whole story idea since you lazy bastards didn't come up with one. So you ready? Yes. All right. So I still want the lead to be named Cameron Poe. I would do it differently. I want to open on Cameron Poe getting busted. And hear me out, all right? I want him to get busted for something bad. I don't want him to be this reluctant hero, this Army Ranger. I don't want any of that. I want him to be, he's a thug. He's a minor league thug who basically goes around, threatening people, threatening guys trying to get debts paid because he works for a drug kingpin or something like that. And he goes too far and he kills a guy. But then he finds out that was a wrong guy, and that guy had a baby on the way. So he killed an innocent man, and a baby was on the way, and he gets busted for it. So he ends up going to jail. We see a montage of him working out, toughening up, but he becomes more sensitive to others. So he becomes like this protector in jail because that's the way he's always been, and he knows he's not going anywhere. But he starts to really, because he feels horrible about what he did, that he killed this innocent guy, that he was on that path, and he's, determined to not be that guy anymore, that sort of thing. So when he's finally put on Con Air, he's not getting paroled. He's actually one of the bad guys that's on board. He is actually going to a Supermax, and he is serving 15 years, another 15 years to go. So when you get to a character that's also, I'm going to stick with Cyrus the Virus because it's just one of those things that's really catchy, and I think it's symbolic of the movie. It's a real conflict within him because Cyrus has, this opportunity to give him freedom, and he can either help or he can run. He can either help the guards that are on the plane or he can run. So Cyrus has this pilot on his payroll who manages to sneak he and Diamond Dog a gun, which they use to methodically take out guards and take over the plane. So same basic concept there. But Cyrus isn't fun like he is in this movie. He's very vicious, and he just wants freedom. He will do anything, screw anyone over to get it. He is sadistic. Diamond Dog is a militant. I would stick with that, but he hates everybody on this flight, and he's willing to do the same thing. Like, you don't know which one of these guys is going to screw over the next guy. So you get to the point where Cameron Poe has an opportunity to do the right thing or go free. He reflects on that innocent life he already took, maybe flashes back or something like that, and how the guards symbolize innocent lives on the plane, and so he works to help them. He sabotages the fuel line. He forces the plane to land somewhere in the upper northwest. So the first half of the movie would be on the plane, and the second half, I would get the hell away from that Vegas portion because that was awful. The second half would be Poe tracking them through the mountains as they took guards hostage, and he wants to do the right thing once in his life. Okay, hang on, I still got more. So you would end the film in like the standoff where Poe has to make that final choice, as the only way to save that last guard is to basically lunge at Cyrus over a cliff, forcing them both to their deaths. And at that moment, he reflects back on the man that he was, kind of gives a little smirk or something along those lines, and takes Cyrus out, killing himself when finally becoming a hero. So he dies, but, because you got to have somewhat of a happy ending. The closing credits would be U.S. Marshal Vince Larkin giving a media report and stating that these 5 or however many guards were saved are only alive because of the sacrifice of Cameron Poe, and it's being watched by the daughter of the man Poe killed. Boom. That's my movie.
What about the bunny?
He sent her a bunny in the mail. She's holding the bunny he sent in the mail.
That's right. That's good. No, listen, that's not bad. That's not bad. But
can you do one better? I'm listening.
I like it, but I think what we have to do is just do. I haven't scratched the bus idea because I didn't really like the bus idea. I like the train idea, and let's do it on a train, and let's do it in a city. So you have to like switch between trains. So the whole idea is like they have to go to a train yard and they have to switch between trains, and they could blow trains up in the train yard, and it's not really affecting the population like the Vegas thing. But then somehow there's like a head-on train-on-train collision to like kill Cyrus in the end. And this, instead of the cliff thing, you have it be like two trains racing at each other, and then Poe jumps out at the last minute or something, and that's how Cyrus dies, is because the trains crash into each other, but Poe lives.
What was that one movie with Chris Pine and Morgan Freeman?
Unstoppable. Denzel Washington. Unstoppable.
Denzel Washington. That's it. Unstoppable. What if you took I like the idea of making him a con, but what if it's not quite as over the top that he's a reluctant hero, but more of like the Harrison Ford fugitive take, to where you're not quite sure, did he kill his wife? Did he not kill his wife? But like he maintains his innocence, even though you as the audience believe that, well, maybe he could have done both, right? Maybe he could have killed, or maybe he didn't. We don't know. But you have an overzealous Marshal that absolutely has to take him down. Basically, I just want the Fugitive 3. That's what I'm saying here, guys.
Would he be guilty? Would he have killed his wife?
I don't know. Was Wesley Snipes guilty in U.S. Marshals? I can't remember.
Yes and no. He was kind of framed, but he was kind of a killer.
Wait a minute. Wasn't Wesley Snipes also in the military?
Like Wesley Snipes, the person, or the character in U.S. Marshals?
The character he plays in U.S. Marshals.
Yes, he was.
Yeah, so basically I'm saying the plot of U.S. Marshals.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's what I want. No, you got to make it a little bit more gritty, like you said. You got to have a little bit more grounded in realism, which I enjoy. I think you could do Con Air, you could do it on a plane, but there's got to be some questions of whether or not I like this character. I would lose the whole, because this movie went too far in the tropes. Like, you had him as a reluctant hero with the family and the daughter on the way. Well, how is his wife pregnant if he's been away in the Army Rangers? Like, that doesn't make any sense. And then you also have him as like best friends with his buddy, Bubba, or whatever the guy's character's name, Babio or whatever. And he's,
Babio.
You're telling me that he's going to be best friends with a guy by handing him pink balls, pink coconut balls? Come on. Like, was that a metaphor for something else? If that's why they're best friends? Like, I want to see a little bit more realism. And then what is there? Was there riots going on, but he's staying in his cell? Come on. I want to see a little bit more realism if I'm going to believe that these guys are cons. I don't want a happy montage with all the characters and with their actors' names and Leonard Skinner playing at the end.
I'm on board, and I am going to throw a cut out there so we don't end up somewhere else. I do want it on a plane. I don't want con train or con bus or con cab or anything like that. It's a remake of Con Air. I think you get a little too wacky if you start putting it on different modes.
Con cab,
con Uber. I want con Lyft.
Oh, we could do it. There you go. Con Uber. Every con gets called an Uber, and then bam, it's taken over.
That's right. Can we make Con Air only all the characters are female? We're gonna give this the Ghostbusters treatment.
Oh, it's Orange is the New Black in space.
Right. Yes, I want to do Space Air. That's what I want to do. Con Space.
All right. So, what direction do we want? We want to make it grittier. We want to make it more realistic. Because I already cut, so it's going to be on a plane. Damn it, we're not going to be astronauts. So,
well, I want plane to plane transition stuff like Air Force One / executive decision. There has to be more plane to plane hijinks in order to make it bigger, more spectacle.
Mid-air transfer of prisoners?
Yeah, I think that would be awesome. Like the only way, like it's at the Supermax facility that they've been talking about in Alabama, not in Nevada. Supermax facility is actually the plane itself. The plane always stays in the air, kind of like the who was that guy? Sir Crispin Crandall from the Blacklist, where he never lands except to refuel. Okay, same kind of concept. Like the maximum security prison is in the air. They have to transport the prisoners to the Supermax plane, but when they actually do the prison transfer, the Supermax plane for some reason is one of their landing cycles, and that's when they're able to take over the electronics or whatever to take over the Supermax prison. and they're flying all of these prisoners to some remote location, and they have to shoot the plane down before they can get outside of U.S. borders or whatever because of extradition treaties and blah, 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 blah,
Troy,
blah.
do you really think we're going to spend that kind of tax dollars to keep an airplane constantly flying because these convicts are too dangerous to hit land?
Yes, absolutely. 110%.
This is where you just went full Heinritz because that makes no sense whatsoever.
It would be glorious.
It makes no sense.
Can Cyrus the Virus in this version wear a mask on his face that he has to breathe through the entire time?
It would make more sense if
Because
I
think you just described the plot device of The Dark Knight. Plane-to-plane transfers.
Yeah. Oh, that's true. Yeah, you could do it just like that. And you get Bane, oh, I expect you to die.
No, listen, the idea of a plane always in the air for convicts, I mean, why not?
Because it doesn't make any sense.
It makes more sense than what was in this movie.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah.
No, transferring prisoners makes sense. We got to keep these guys always in the air. I don't understand. You got to come up with a reason, not just because it sounds cool. You got to come up with a reason.
It's like speed. It's like speed. What if the plane goes below 5,000 feet and then it blows up? Okay, all right. No,
it is serious though, because I mean, look at Alias. They had the whole thing where the plane had to stay up in the air to keep the servers, because if the servers were on the ground, the servers would get hacked.
There's no reason in the world we would keep convict. We would just shoot them or bury them. There's no way we would spend all that money just to keep them airborne.
It's the same amount of money either way. If we keep the convicts alive on the ground, still got to feed them, still got to have high supermax guards 24/7. You don't need this is like the perfect plot point for the movie, because on the ground, I need so many more guards in order to keep them at bay. Up in the plane, I don't have to have that many guards. So it's the perfect way for them to escape and take over the plane.
I got it, guys. What if the cons win in the end?
So now it's Ocean's 11.
Yeah. Yeah. I want Ocean's 11 in the air, guys. That's what I want.
Well, hang on. That's interesting. Go with it.
Yeah, so essentially, they think that they've taken down the plane, but at the end, it's like the guys. It's like the Con Air, the leaders with the existing cons that have lived. They've switched planes, and then you have Con Air 2, and then Con Air 3, and Con Air 4. Guys, I'm setting up a franchise. That's what I'm doing here.
Via the plane-to-plane transfer.
Via the plane-to-plane transfer. That's right.
You could do the plane-to-plane transfer without having a system that has constantly have convicts flying around the United States.
Okay, all right. We'll lose the constant air. But I mean, listen, it's not a bad device. I mean, shoot, if the Avengers can have a aircraft carrier that floats up in the air all the time, can go stealth, why can't you do it with this?
An air prison.
I'm calling my cut. It's going to be in the air all the time, damn it.
Son of a... Then you yelled at you got to make it work. So explain how this plot's going to work then.
Just that way. It is a supermax prison in the air that only lands when it needs to refuel or get supply. No, they don't. They can even refuel in the air, right? Because they refuel in the air when they're in the Air Force. So they don't even have to land. And for some reason, when they're doing this prison-to-prison transport, the fuel line gets busted or something because of turbulence. And so they have to land for repairs. And it's during the course of the repairs that stuff goes haywire, because one of the repair people ends up being someone that's trying to break out these convicts in particular. The purpose is that it's the government showcasing this brand new Supermax in the air facility. Something happens in a prison-to-prison prisoner-prisoner transport in the air that causes the ability for the Supermax prison to refuel, to break. So it has to land in order to get repairs. And then it's because of that repair job that somehow they're able to figure out a way to escape and take control of the plane and then take off, and the rest of the movie ensues from there.
Okay, I'm gonna use my cut.
Oh boy.
And I'm gonna say this. It is not a prison that has to be in the air all the time, but it is a prison plane. It gets shot down and it lands in a dystopian future New York City. And then it's Escape from New York with Con Air combined, and they have to fight their way out. But they're good cons. Can we do that?
That actually sounds fun.
That actually sounds great, right?
It's your cut.
That's what I want. I want Con Air merged with Escape from New York. Can we do that? So
it's a future where we're transporting prisoners from New York to LA and LA to New York.
That's right.
and something happens that the plane actually gets shot down and lands in one of these city prisons.
It may not even be the city prison. Maybe they're trying to transport from city prison to city prison, and it lands in like the
Pittsburgh.
like in Pittsburgh or somewhere in the heartland, right? Where these are people that have lived in a dystopian society where they feel safe now, but now cons have landed in their area, and their only hope is one of the good cons.
Hey, now I'm listening again. Now I'm back on board.
So people haven't seen crime, I don't know, for a while, and now it's now I don't know. That's my only thing. I just wanted to get the plane out of the air. I didn't get to use my cut the last time I was on Escape from New York, which is why I'm using my Escape from New York cut in Con Air.
I do kind of like that theory, though, or the concept of a dystopian future where crime doesn't exist. So now we could throw a little Minority Report at it, and then then the plane crashes, and because the plane crashes, then this whole situation of cons running around causing havoc, and how do we stop them? And it just so happens that
trying to get to another plane to escape,
right? And one of the other cons just happened to be this former military cop, whatever.
No, I don't want that.
That goes back to Aaron's idea.
Absolutely do not want that.
He just wants the redemption story.
Yeah.
So he decides to turn on the cons and help save the town or whatever it is to put the cons behind bars once and for all again.
Yes.
As long as Cameron Poe is not a ranger, cop, whatever, none of that crap.
No.
He's got to be an actual bad person.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
hate that.
He's one of the bad guys.
Cliched Hollywood BS story that they always do. Where no, he's actually a great guy who just accidentally killed some dude and got 10 years for it. It was a boo-boo.
Yeah, I want to see these cons doing bad things too.
Yeah, evil stuff. They got to kill people.
Yeah, it's like the Journey story, because he's a con and he does bad stuff. He lands in this town where everything is good, and he sees, oh, hey, this is like, we should really be doing the good stuff, and all these cons like, no, screw that. And then that's where he it's almost like a Magnificent Seven kind of story angle to it a little bit.
Because he realizes that he's killed innocent people. He doesn't want to do that again. He doesn't want to be that guy again. He doesn't want to go back there. And he sees that these are good people, decent people. And the people he's with are not good and decent. So basically they've crashed. It's like a transport, you're saying, from LA to New York or wherever. And they crash in the heartland somewhere in the Midwest or something. And then they basically ravage the town while other people are trying to find the plane, because they can't, obviously, well, I guess they could find the plane, but they can't find the convicts. So they don't know where they're at. And they've kind of taken up this small town or something, and they're just ransacking. They're just taking it over or something like that, and trying to get another plane to escape.
Yeah. I think we got a movie.
I could buy that. So how are they going to get caught? It's just going to be him working one through another. Are you still going to have Cyrus the Virus and Diamond Dog and the characters that those are the convicts that are involved?
All the same characters still exist on the plane. You might also have you have a couple of the hostages, some of the guard hostages. I like the woman guard, the Maria guard. I like also the idea of an overzealous a U.S. Marshal trying to track these guys. Yeah, I think all the same concepts are still there. But
yeah, he could meet up with Guard Sally Bishop, right? Guard Bishop in the town. Maybe Guard Bishop's in the town, so she's not a guard, but she's a townie. And so maybe meets up with Sally in the town. Maybe meets up with Vince Larkin in the town. They're all townies, and he uses the townies to save the town, kind of thing.
Well, I think you could have Vince Larkin still as the U.S. Marshal, because you got to have that guy that's trying to find him.
Well, I think that's Combs' character. You can still use the Duncan Malloy is still he's the rough and tough guy, because we're in the dystopian future. Everything's just all hell outside of this, no man's land where it's all peace and quiet. Nobody knows what's really going on in the outside world. So you have Colm coming into this, the Duncan character coming into this town from the outside, where you have then that gets you the Vince Larkin and Duncan Malloy back and forth, because he's the mayor of the town or something, and they kind of battle it that way. Two different perspectives to approach the problem.
So Mayor Larkin and U.S. Marshal Malloy? Because U.S. Marshals would be the one pursuing convicts. It wouldn't be a DEA agent.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, you lose the whole DEA angle if we do it that way.
Yeah, that could be cool.
Although it could be a situation where Mayor Malloy is he's like the one that crashes the plane. because they secretly want the convicts out. They don't like this dystopian future. They want chaos in the land, right? They want that back. So they're the ones who they're in cahoots with the lead cons to crash this plane, make it look like an accident, but it's really not.
That's a cool twist, because then it's all about the profiteering.
That's right. The owners of the prisons that want to siphon more money away from these people, and they can't get the money, so they're like, well, I'm going to crash a plane into your safe little America, and this is going to be my power play. So then the marshal he's not just taking down the cons, he's also taking down the mayor of the city or the governor or the president, whoever.
The concept of the utopian society.
Right. Yeah.
I like it. I think we got a movie. It's all over the place, but I like it.
I think yeah. Well, shoot. The original Con Air is all over the place. Why wouldn't the remake be? So in this final movie between you guys, because my original one, Cameron Poe dies, what do you vote? Does he live or die at the end? Oh, I think we got a Snake Plissken vehicle here on our hands. So I don't know if listen, you could also do like what they did with U.S. Marshals in The Fugitive, where you think the protagonist is going to be the one that you're going to enjoy in the sequels, but it's actually the U.S. Marshal. So yeah, so you could have Cameron Poe die. What's your vote, Troy?
Part of me is like, okay, now you have to have that love angle. So it's like, does it get with Guard Bishop at the end of the movie? And that drives the next movie.
Damn it. That was one great thing about this movie. The only love angle is his wife. And, that really isn't a big part of it, contrary to what they wanted. No, she's his hummingbird. Ugh.
No, he dies, and then Cameron Poe gets a statue in the utopian town for saving the utopian society. Because it's dystopia versus utopia.
I like that. All right, that works. Yeah. So, okay, I think we got a movie. I still got to figure out how it all comes together, but I think we got a whole movie. Who should make it?
That's actually perfect, because that's like a theme then, because he goes from the bad guy, to becoming a good guy. Just like you have this the utopian society wants to change the dystopian society to remind them like we can be a good society again. So it's I think it's the idea. The movie.
Well, I think it's also the idea that you can't have freedom without some elements of bad. Like you can't have the good without some of the bad. You can't just have a solely good society, because it's usually going to involve an authoritative regime, right? You have to there has to be balance in the world, right? You can't overzealous making things super safe. Like, again, I don't want, if I could get on my Raj soapbox here and get political for a minute, we can't live in a constant surveillance state and trade in our freedom and liberties in the name of safety, right? To live in a truly free society, you have to come to grips with that at any given time, there's going to be crime.
Mm-hmm. I agree with that.
Yeah, there's laws and stuff like that, but what liberties are you willing to trade for that? Like, I'm not willing to trade my freedom of my information and my private life in exchange for, living in a utopian society. I think that's crazy, right? The whole idea of the purge, right? I don't want to, live in a world like that. I want to live in, as close to that as possible without going over the cliff.
Because those people also would have they don't need to, so they don't have any idea how to defend themselves.
They have no weapons. They don't have they don't lock their doors. They're it's dropping a bunch of wolves into
1950s.
Yeah, exactly.
I like that, dropping wolves into Leave It to Beaver. That could be fun. And they're just rampaging the town while they're trying to find until they get their escape route. And Cameron Poe's like, I don't want to be this guy. I don't want to be this guy.
Yeah. You could even have a scene where like the National Guard sent in by the governor or the president catches up to the cons, and then they turn and fight the marshals, right? Because the National Guards are on the side of the cons because they're controlled by this general or whoever that's trying to overthrow the government. I don't know. That's just
now you're going full Heinritz.
Now I've gone off the cliff.
Full Roper. Now we got a full Roper.
That's right. I've gone full
Raj.
There you go. All right, I'm going to stop there.
Okay.
I think we got a movie.
Who should direct the movie? Who is the perfect guy to direct it? Either one of you.
Michael Bay.
I actually like that. Is it a hard R?
Oh yeah, it's definitely a hard R.
Definitely a hard R.
I'm kind of okay with Michael Bay as long as there's no American flags.
Yeah. Yeah. No, who directed The Purge? Who directed The Purge? Who was that director? James DeMonaco He's the one who directed The Purge.
Yeah, he would be a good fit for that, especially if you do it like the sequels were, like Anarchy. And,
right.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah,
I'm on board.
I could see. Yeah. An interesting tidbit because I compared this movie highly, the original Con Air, to The Expendables. Simon West actually directed The Expendables too.
Yep, he sure did.
Well, I was saying I wanted the guy that directed The Rock, and then I was like, oh crap, Michael Bay directed The Rock.
That's right. That's right.
Son of a.
Oh, so good. All right.
How did he go so wrong with Transformers? The Rock was so good.
Michael Bay is a good director, man. He just likes to direct Transformer movies now, apparently. I don't know. Cameron Poe. Who's got the pick for Cameron Poe? I give you I picked Michael Fassbender. That's who I wanted. But who do you guys have?
I like Michael Fassbender.
I wanted edgy and dark.
Yeah. Yeah, I could see that. Yeah, I like that pick. I'll go with Michael Fassbender.
Sweet.
Or Tom Hardy. I'll go Tom Hardy.
Troy?
Who's what's his name from Stranger Things that's going to be the new Hellboy?
David Harbour?
Yeah. He seems like he's the kind of guy who would be like dark, but yeah, trying to find his way. And then he could end up being good at the end of the day. Because you have to have that person that could do a journey story, not just be the rough and tough guy.
He doesn't really strike me as very threatening, though.
I feel like David Harbour would be a better like U.S. Marshal.
Yeah, I would rather see him as. Yeah, I think that would be a good pick. Like put him in the U.S. Marshal role.
Yeah, like in the John Cusack role.
Yeah. Well, he's the mayor now, right? He's the mayor, Mayor Larkin.
Oh, is he the mayor now?
Okay. Yeah. Apparently, he's a dirty mayor because Troy didn't like the fact of having the actual marshal be the marshal.
So who's the DEA agent that's now like the evil governor?
See, I think, the DEA agent should be the mayor, and we should have Larkin should be the U.S. Marshal.
Yeah,
because
right, exactly.
Run cohesive.
Larkin's the hero in the movie, in a way.
The mayor's like the jackass. You said we already agreed on this.
The Cole Meanley character would be the jackass, and Larkin would be the mayor of the Utopian Society.
But you said but he's bad.
He's the good guy.
Yeah. I thought we said we were going to make one of the either the mayor, governor, or president.
You said the mayor was going to be the bad guy. That's what you said like 10 minutes ago.
Yeah, so we said the mayor was the good guy because they're trying to save the Utopian Society, and that the DEA agent, the Cole Meanley character, was the bad guy because he's in charge of all the prisons.
That's not
keep
what we said.
Proliferating the prisons.
It's actually the other way. You said the mayor was the one that brought the plane down, and the marshal was the good guy.
Guys, we're just like in the original Con Air. We're going to do rewrites during production.
Look, the whole point of the movie was that the Utopian Society needs to win in the end, and the dystopian society is what's causing the plane to crash. So you have to figure out who is in charge of the dystopian society because they're the bad guy, and the utopian society is the good guy. So who do you want to play the dystopian leader who wants to rid the world of the utopian society?
Way too complicated.
So I think I've got the answer here. So the answer is that you've got like a general who's trying to overthrow the president, right? So someone who's trying to start a coup, and the way he's going to get this coup is by bringing down this plane in the utopian society, right? He wants more power. Maybe it's like the general of all these like prison states or prison cities.
Yes.
So he brings it down. So I don't care who character. I think it's the DEA agent because you want that same similar John Cusack versus what was the character's name or the actor's name who's playing the DEA agent, the ass kicker.
Cole Meanley.
Yeah, you want that same going against each other, right? But Larkin doesn't know that Cole Meaney is bad yet until he figures it out at the end.
Right, Cole Meanley, Duncan Malloy, General Malloy is the bad guy.
Right, General Malloy brings in the troops to assist the mayor or governor of wherever it landed and thinks that he's on their side. It turns out that he's actually evil.
Exactly. And that's Larkin is the mayor who's actually in favor of saving the utopian society, except Malloy's help until we realize Malloy's the bad guy.
Exactly. Boom. Yes. We got it.
Yes.
Okay, so who's who?
Okay, so I would do David Harbour as
Duncan, as General Malloy.
As General Malloy. Yep.
Yes.
Okay. So who would you put as Larkin?
I would do John Cusack since he hates Con Air.
Redeem it. You hated so much.
Yeah.
Actually, it's Jeremy Piven.
Jeremy Piven. That's I would go. Oh, geez. Who's a good character? That good character actor. That's kind of like that. I don't know. I'm trying to think here of like a good young actor, like a good someone who is younger and full of hope, kind of believes in that. He's not old enough to see the why this is bad, why a utopian society is bad. Like he was raised in this, so he kind of believes in it. So I think you need kind of a younger actor. I'm thinking
Dylan O'Brien. I like him. Maze Runner. If you ever saw him,
Mm-hmm. It's not bad.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of someone like.
Is he too young though? I mean, he has to lead the town or lead the village or whatever it is.
Yeah, almost like in like a Justin Trudeau character, someone who's like a Justin Trudeau.
How about just Justin Trudeau? How about we just throw Justin Trudeau in there?
Of course, we get the Prime Minister of Canada to play this part. Perfect.
Why not? He's an actor. What about Cyrus the Virus? The last one, Cyrus the Virus.
I think you actually get the rapper Cyrus the Virus to play Cyrus the Virus.
No.
God.
Really is a rapper. Look that up.
Cyrus the Virus. Totally believe you. I totally believe you. I'd say Dan Stevens is my pick. Do you guys have a pick? Do you know who Dan Stevens is? Probably not.
Dan Stevens is Legion from Legion.
Yep.
He was the guy who played what was that show on PBS? Downton Abbey.
Mm-hmm. He was. Yep. Same guy. But he was in The Guest, and he was a real just a badass in that. He was a great badass.
That's right. Yeah, I'll go with Dan Stevens. Dan Stevens would also make a good mayor, a good Larkin.
I was thinking Robert Nepper, just because I love Robert Nepper.
From Prison Break, Teabag?
From Prison Break, Teabag.
He works.
I've never seen Prison Break.
What?
Never seen it.
Shame on you.
I know. I'm
Shame
sorry.
on you. All right. Are there any nostalgic moments that you guys want in this movie? Anything from the first movie that has to be in it?
The bunny has to be there somewhere. Doesn't have to be the same device, but there has to be a bunny in the movie. A stuffed bunny.
Maybe they crash on Easter, you know. There's just bunnies everywhere. Everywhere
they crash
you go.
into a toy store and it's just filled with stuffed bunnies.
Instead of a stuffed bunny, it's a real bunny that is delivering.
Oh.
I think you got to go from if you're doing like a coast to coast, like LA to New York for the prison exchange or whatever, you got to fly by Vegas and at least get a flyover of Vegas, just as a nod to the original movie.
Agree.
All right. Did you guys the whole chase down scene on motorbikes where they're chasing down the fire truck? You know, that's exactly lifted from Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade.
What?
Yeah. So if you look, it's almost a shot by shot remake. I swear to God, watch.
I don't recall Vegas nor fire trucks.
Instead of motorcycles, they're horses, and instead of a fire truck, it's a tank.
Yeah. Go back. When John Cusack and Nicolas Cage are jumping onto the fire truck, John Cusack is playing the Indiana Jones role, and the motorcyclist is his horse, and the fire truck, when it, just like in Indiana Jones, it tries to push Indy into the wall. That's exactly what happens here. It's almost, and then at the end, when Nic Cage, just like in Indiana Jones, The Last Crusade, when his hat goes flying by, it's the same in Con Air, only it's the bunny. And he has to reach down and get the bunny instead of the hat. I'm telling you, that was the inspiration for those scenes.
And at the end,
he's getting his hand smacked with a shovel in Indiana Jones.
Yeah,
when he's hanging from the gun thing.
That's right.
He's hanging from the ladder. I guess I could see it.
It's exactly the same.
He's whispering in his kid's ear. Yeah, you chose poorly. Interesting. All right. Well, we got one more clip from the original Con Air. Here you go.
Someone alerted the authorities at Carson City. Someone told them about our learner rendezvous. Someone even killed poor Billy Bedlam. Now, could this all be coincidence? Perhaps. Then someone went and tied a rope to our plane. So I ask you, what is going on? And I answer, we have a traitor in our midst. Now, how do we flush a traitor? I don't know, but at the count of 3, I will find out who is on my team and who is not. That would be 1, 2... Wait, it was me.
It was me. Don't listen to him, man. The insulin made him crazy.
You have been near death the entire trip?
Okay, now we're at the final pitch. This is where you hear the remake trailer that Wayne Henderson has put together. If he managed to understand anything we just said and put it into a movie trailer form, this is where you're going to hear it. As Wayne Henderson, courtesy of MediaVoiceovers.com, delivers our final parody trailer of Con Air.
At this very moment, the most dangerous prisoners in history are boarding a plane. Their destination? A direct transport to New York City prison. But this is no ordinary flight. No, these convicts have a plan. Crashing into the heartland, the worst of the worst are about to rain chaos on a small town. One man stands between them as a convict turns hero to help Mayor Larkin bring these criminals to justice. Fighting a government that needs its people fearful, Cameron Poe is on a mission to bring the whole system down. Next summer, get ready to experience explosive turbulence like you've never witnessed as we take off on a new cinematic universe. Con Air. Then, in 2019, get ready as our hummingbird somehow returns to thwart an evil technology firm bent on destroying the stuffed bunny market in Con Uber. And then, in 2020? Hey, why the hell not? And then, in 2020, prepare for the ultimate ride as Poe returns yet again, this time to save the entire universe. You guessed it, Con Space.
Good job, Wayne. Good job as
always.
I am sorry that you had to endure that.
Before we close out the show, we're going to share some of our listener memories from the movie Con Air, so they're just a few of them. Michael Bonovich says, that mullet inspired me to be the man I am today.
Damn straight.
Sherry Autumn says, a couple things. Don't judge, but I love Cage. I watch all of his movies. I don't know why, but I do. I don't judge. I get it. And he's got 6 or 7 out in 2017, by the way. 6 or 7 movies he's got scheduled for 2017.
Is that in the month of August?
I think so. They're all going to be on Netflix. She continues, as I have told y'all before, I was a good wife, so I watched a lot of action movies for my husband. So the only other memory that this movie brings up is the theme song, How Do I Live by Trisha Yearwood. There was some controversy over it because a young rising star, Leanne Rimes, had a version of the same song and they released them pretty close together. Thanks again for making my weeks bearable with all the podcasts you do. Thank you, Sherry. And I wonder who would have got the Oscar in that. Like
Leanne would have. Totally.
Yeah?
Yeah.
My favorite movie that Leanne Rimes sung the song for was Coyote Ugly. Can't Stop the Moonlight.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
The fact that you know that off the top of your head should scare you.
That should have. Oh, well, listen, it's in my regular rotation.
Tori Melsheen, besides the mullet and the bunny, what else is even worth mentioning? Well, it sounds like Tori's in your boat, Roger.
That was not what she said. She said, besides the bunny and the mullet, what else is worth mentioning? That's all you need. The movie's fantastic. That's what she meant by that statement.
Yeah, that's not what she said.
I remember John Malkovich being scarier. That's what I thought I remembered. He's not scary at all. He's not scary. This movie is feel good, and again, it's unfortunate that they redeem characters that should not be redeemed. A serial killer, guys. I just want this on record. A serial killer who has killed 37 people and wore a victim's head on his, the face of a victim on his head like a hat, is a likable character by the end of this movie.
He is. I really liked him. I'm like, I would hang out with him.
It makes zero sense.
And
this movie is bonkers.
He would wear my ass on his face or something, and it just is not a comfortable environment for me. It's not safe for children.
Which is the movie that was Steve Buscemi in Las Vegas?
That Steve Buscemi was in, or Nic Cage?
No, in Las Vegas. Steve Buscemi was in a movie about Las Vegas, right?
No, Nic Cage was in a movie called Leaving Las Vegas.
I could have sworn Steve Buscemi was in a movie that involved Las Vegas.
He was. It was called Con Air, and at the end he gets away. Yep.
Hold on.
Hang on, there's more. Craig Shermerhorn, so many quotable lines, and some of Garland Green stuff has got to be in there. We disagree. And Walton Goggins as Garland Green all day. I would be all right with that. And I know he can't be the casting choice for everything, but the moment you show me something he cannot do better than everybody else is the moment I will stop nominating him. So Craig's a Walton Goggins fan. I'm with him. Lastly, Joanna says, love it when he says, put the bunny in the box. I made a short cartoon for an animation class with that line. Huh. I would like to see
That's
that.
funny.
If you could send us that clip, I would love to watch it.
That would be funny.
That would be funny.
St. John of Las Vegas.
That's it. St. John of Las Vegas. I think he's the same character.
Did you see it? The movie?
No, I've never seen it.
Okay. Thank God. I was worried about you. All right. Well, remember, guys, that Wayne Henderson, who does our trailers here, you can find him at mediavoiceovers.com. It's mediavoiceovers.com. He also has a ton of podcasts, including a Doctor Who podcast and Packers fan podcast. He does a bunch of stuff. Now, Roger, where can people find you?
You can find me on my Twitter at Roger_Roper. We also do a weekly podcast called Shat on TV, where we review top television series. Right now, we're in the midst of doing American Gods, but we're also going to be doing Game of Thrones. So check us out over there. Just follow at Shat on TV. You can also follow us Shat the Movies, where we review 80s and 90s movies from our childhood. Similar to this, only we don't remake it. We just talk about how good or bad they were and tell you how many wipes it would take to get off your butt. So check us out, shatthemovies.com and shatontv.com.
It's an interesting scale. All right, Troy, where can people find you?
You can find me doing discussions about The Blacklist over at theblacklistexposed.com. Now a 2017 Academy Podcaster Award nominee in TV
Congratulations on that. I saw that. That was great.
Thanks. That's all Aaron.
Mm-hmm.
Aaron made it happen this year.
You finally acknowledged that I'm on the show. That's good. Good for you.
That's good.
I'm proud of you.
And of course, PackersFanPodcast.com with Wayne, which we will be starting up because training camp is right around the corner by the time you're listening to this.
All right. And you can find me here, obviously, Remake This Movie Right, TheHollywoodOutsider.com. And also, what are the ones we do, Troy? We do Blacklist and Beyond Westworld, right? We do that one too.
Oh, yeah. The Westworld thing.
Lots
coming back soon.
2018. Anybody know when it's coming back yet? Roger, you got any feedback?
October 2018. That's the latest.
No,
really?
October 2018. Yep.
I heard summer.
You heard summer? Is that new?
Please be summer.
So he'd make it up.
I can't do fall. I can't do 3 in a row.
Yeah. That's the latest I heard. That was 2 months ago. So unless something's come out recently.
Damn. All right. Well, subscribe and review us via Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, or your podcast app of choice. Our email is remakethismovieright@gmail.com. It's remakethismovieright@gmail.com. We're on Twitter at remakeright. And, of course, at remakethismovieright.com. The credits have rolled in this remake, but be sure to come back for our next one. And remember that every film you love will get a reboot someday, and only you can remake that movie right. I'm still not even sure I know what movie we just made.
I thought it was good. I thought it was fun at the end.
When does Snake Plissken win? Does he win in this? I think Kurt Russell shows up.
That's the con universe.
That's right.
Oh my God, we've got a universe now.
Cameron Poe and Snake Plissken meet up in the 4th movie during phase 2.
I would watch it. I would watch it.
It's Con Air, but it's all full of con men, and they're all trying to out trick each other on the way to Comic-Con.
No. That's phase 3.
The Con Trinity.